when the Covgiants came. To begin with, everybody was very happy. The elves and the goblins and the dwarves living together in their town. That was before the Covgiants came. The dwarves were very good at mining and quarrying for stones. The goblins used to go fishing and bring home fish to eat, and they had megaphones to shout to each other from their boats. The elves were very good at farming, and they made lovely milkshakes, which everybody enjoyed. So everyone was very happy until one day the Covgiants came lumbering down the valley. These were great big giants, moving very slowly through the misty valley, but saying, "We are going to destroy your town. We are going to kill you all and eat you all up." And they came lumbering on. Well, something needed to be done. The elves made lots more milkshakes, and some of the elves went out to the Covgiants and threw their milkshakes at the Covgiants. But the Covgiants came lumbering on. The goblins got their megaphones and went up to the hills where the Covgiants were walking past and shouted abuse at the Covgiants. "You are very ugly Covgiants! You have a horrible face! We don't like you! Go away!" But the Covgiants came lumbering on. And the dwarfs quarried some stones, got lots of stones, put them in their slingshots, and some of them ran out to the Covgiants and slung their stones at the Covgiants. But the Covgiants' heads were very high in the air, and though the dwarves were aiming at them, most of the stones missed. And the Covgiants came lumbering on. And the dwarfs and the elves and the goblins were very worried. And they started to have a daily briefing. And the Minister for Milkshakes said, "We're doing everything we can with the milkshakes. We'll try and make 100,000 milkshakes a day to throw at the Covgiants." And the Minister for Megaphones said, "We need to get more people shouting abuse at the Covgiants. I want to recruit 25,000 goblins to shout abuse at the Covgiants." Though it wasn't really clear that there was enough for 25,000 goblins to do. And the dwarfs, the Minister for Missiles, said, "We will work night and day to quarry as many more stones as we can to throw stones at the Covgiants." But the Covgiants came lumbering on, and it seemed nothing could stop them. Until one day, one of the dwarfs, who was a very good shot, with his slingshot took aim, and the stone hit one of the Covgiants right here on the head, and the Covgiant fell down dead. And the dwarfs shouted for joy, and they thought that the Covgiants would turn round and come back. But it was very misty, and the other Covgiants didn't see what had happened, and the Covgiants came lumbering on. And at the daily briefing, the Minister for Milkshakes said, "We'll try and make more milkshakes." And the Minister for Megaphones said, "We'll get more people shouting abuse with the megaphones." And the Minister for Missiles, who was a dwarf, said, "We're working shifts all through the night to quarry more stones to throw at the Covgiants." But the Covgiants came lumbering on. And in the middle of this, a wise old wizard who was passing through saw all the commotion and the concern, and he said, "What is it that you really want?" And the Minister for Milkshakes said, "We want to make more milkshakes." And the Minister for Megaphones, who was a goblin, said, "We want more goblins shouting abuse from megaphones." And the Minister for Stones, who was a dwarf, said, We want to get as many stones as we can to throw at the giants. And the wise old wizard said, I don't think that's what you really want. Tell me, what do you really want? And they all thought about it. And one of the dwarfs, and in fact this was the dwarf who was the good shot, this dwarf said, We want dead giants. And the wise old wizard said, You're getting a bit closer now. Dead giants will help you towards where you want to get to. But what do you really want? And they all scratched their heads. And then one of the little elf children said, I want to feel safe again. And the other children took up the call, and they all said, We want to feel safe again. And the dwarfs and the goblins and the elves said, Yes, we want to feel safe again. The wise old wizard said, Yes, that is what you want. Dead giants are an output that might help you towards the outcome that you want, which is to feel safe again. And everything else might help you to get there, but you're not using it very effectively. Come here. And he got them to sit down around a table with him and all talk about what their strategy could be, what their theory could be as to how they could make a change. And the next day, they all prepared together. They had some milkshakes that the elves carried out, and the elves threw milkshakes just onto the place where the Covgiants were going to step. And the Covgiants stepped on the milkshakes and slipped up and fell down to the ground. And the dwarfs got their slings and their stones, and these Covgiant heads were very big, but you could now see the head from the ground, and it wasn't too far. And before the Covgiants could get up again, the dwarves took aim with their slingshots and flung their stones at the giant's head and killed them. Many giants were killed. But did that stop the Covgiants? No. There were more Covgiants still going on through the mist, still saying, We want to eat you all up. And then the goblins, up on the hills with the megaphones, said, Lots of your giants have been killed by stones that the dwarfs threw. You can keep walking, but you're going to see dead Covgiants. And the Covgiants walked on and saw dead Covgiants. And through their megaphones the goblins shouted, If you keep coming, the same thing will happen to you. And the Covgiants turned around, because now they had realised that the dwarves and the goblins and the elves were working together and would kill them. And the Covgiants went back to their own place and didn't eat dwarves and goblins and elves. They ate each other a bit, but never mind that. And the wise old wizard said, So what is it that you really wanted? And the dwarf said, who had the good shot, said, We wanted dead giants. The wise old wizard said, At the start of the year, did you want dead giants? Dead Covgiants? They all said, No, that wasn't what we were thinking of. The wise old wizard said, Exactly. That was an output that was useful to get to your outcome, but what was the outcome that you really wanted? And they all said, Ah, yes, we wanted to feel safe. And the wise old wizard said, So that was the outcome you wanted. And has it been achieved? Do you feel safe now? And they all said, Yes, we feel safe now. And they all lived happily ever after. But in the Lessons Learnt review, they concluded that if their leaders were talking just about the inputs to deal with a problem and spent all their time saying how people were working night and day and were producing loads of things, then perhaps their leaders didn't have a good grasp of strategically what was needed, because it was more important to be talking about the ultimate outcomes and the outputs that would help them towards that, rather than just individually as separate ministers talking about their individual inputs. And they decided that that was a good lesson that perhaps could be applied to other problems as well. And so that really did help them to live happily ever after. The end.